My name is Courtney Rudd. I am a technology coach at Pajaro Valley Unified School District. I recognize some of your guys' faces from our own district. I have spent my whole career teaching technology and digital media, and about 7 years ago, I became a technology coach at the district. So,
and I'm Janie Islas. I used to teach 3rd grade and was the tech liaison, and now I'm a tech coach. And my class helped to beta test Google Classroom way back when it started, so it's been really cool seeing all the changes that they've added over the years.
And for those of you, that's probably worth noting that Google Classroom is constantly adding new features and updating and kind of changing the look of it. The functionality tends to be there. They don't tend to remove functionality, but they tend to add stuff. So don't get frustrated by that. Just know that they try to do it in chunks based on semester. This school year, they really haven't done much to it. And I think that's because they're working really hard to make Google Meet much more of a robust virtual teaching platform. And Google Meet is now integrated within Google Classroom. So just realize that that is now kind of part of the whole baby. Okay. So we want to give you a second to rest your brains on this quote. Okay. So hopefully you've been able to absorb that a little bit. So basically, you've probably heard this and you've probably experienced this in your own classroom, that the more touch points that you can have with your students in terms of their learning and where their challenges and where you need to work them, the better off their progress is. And the less that you make it about an external grade, the less on external motivation, the more internally motivated they are to improve their work. So it's establishing that rapport and that dialogue with your students. It's really important. It's way easier to do that in the physical environment. We know that we have so many touch points with students in terms of their verbal and nonverbal cues. Really hard to do that via a virtual learning platform or through distance learning. So Google Classroom luckily has opportunities for you to at least incorporate that feedback loop using commenting features. And then Janie's going to show you some additional ways that you can add in your voice and audio or video. So what we're going to be covering today, again, from like I said at the beginning, is how can you do feedback within Google Classroom assignments? Then how can you provide feedback over an entire assignment? And that can be both personal, like private comments to the student, as well as just comments to the entire class over a particular assignment. We may or may not talk about questions within Google Classroom. And then, like I said, Janie's going to refer to how you can incorporate other tools that can go into Google Classroom to help bring things alive a little bit more. So we're going to start with being within an assignment. And if you can see from this screenshot, this is just a Google Doc that was sent out as a Google Classroom assignment. And you'll see that there's a chain of commenting back and forth between myself and the test student. And this is part of that interchange where you start with something, they respond. They either address that comment or maybe they have further questions, and you continue that rich discussion on a particular skill set you're working on or whatever it is that you're trying to teach and have the students learn from. I'm going to go ahead and go out of the slideshow now and show this to you within Google Classroom so you can see the nuts and bolts of how to actually do that and where those comments live. So give me a second to switch over my tabs. Okay. So Janie and I made this, out of the way, made a Google Classroom particularly for today's session. And we do want to just point out really quickly that at this point, everybody's had a couple months of distance learning under their belt, and they've probably realized that Google Classroom can get pretty unwieldy pretty quickly with a lot of assignments out there, postings, where do kids do things, and hopefully we've gotten through some of those learning curves. But one suggestion we have that has really helped is to create topics that are per week. So all the assignments go within a specific topic for a week. And then that's easier for kids to be able to click and easier for teachers and for parents to be able to refer back to. We also suggest numbering your assignments. When you number assignments, it makes it a lot easier for you to refer back to them and for students to find them without going into what was the title of the assignment. You just remember assignment 2. So that's a little about that. So I posted, Jamie and I created this assignment on narrative writing. We gave instructions within the assignment itself, and we did not attach a template to it. If you notice back over here in the instructions, we just said add your narrative writing assignment to it. Students have the capability in Google Classroom to either create a document right there in the assignment, or they can have had one written out in a Google Drive or a doc that they've stored in their Google Drive and add it to the assignment themselves. So just want you to realize that you don't always have to create that document for them to click on. Now again, for the youngers, absolutely, I would suggest the easier you make it for them to just get in and start writing, that's fine, but to develop agency for the older level grade levels, they can do it themselves. Less work on you. So what we have here is the student work. We have 3 students in our class. They've all been assigned it, but these 2 students have already returned or have turned in their work, and I, as the teacher, has returned it. So I can see over here by the status, I've returned these essays to the kids. That means that they clicked turn in at some point. And the reason that we want to discuss this is that when you're doing commenting and you're actually in a student's document and editing with them, or you're making edits on their document, they won't see it if they have turned it in. If they have submitted or turned in that document, it becomes view only to the student. And then they won't be able to act on your comments because they won't see them. So you as the teacher needs to make sure to return work. If you're going to put comments, they've turned it in and you're going to comment on it, you need to return the work to them in order for them to see the comments that you've put inside. So let's go into one.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to add about that was, writing is often a process. So you might tell your students, don't turn it in at all, ever, or maybe when the due date is. But if they do turn it in, you can always return it so that they'll be able to fix things. But for example, you might do a mini lesson, one day, add a little video about how to create your introduction. And then that's what they're going to work on, and that's what you give them feedback on. And then the next day or a few days later, you add another mini lesson. Now I've been reading through your writing. I notice we're going to work on fixing our transitions. So that's why it's a work in progress. And that's one thing we heard from teachers, that kind of like process over time and looking at student work was difficult in the spring.
Do you recommend that they share it with you, but not put it in Google Classroom yet?
Oh, no. I mean, as long as it's in there, they could be adding to it, and you could be, even in real time seeing the changes they make. So yeah, I think it should be in there so you could see it throughout the process, but they could just not turn it in.
And that's kind of to this point, see Janie, I mean, this is fake Janie, that's real Janie, but she could have had a document here and never turned it in. So it's still assigned, and you would see in here a thumbnail that shows that she's actually put something in there and clicked on it. And you can obviously see on these thumbnails a little bit of variance between these 2 students. And they don't ever have to turn it in. Like she said, you'd see it here, you can click in, you can be working on it, they can be working on it. And it may be until the very end that they would actually do turn in. But either way, like the turn in is just a technicality. They don't ever have to. And even if it's assigned and you never have them turn it in, you can always grade them at the very end. So it doesn't require that they've turned in to be able to grade it. So at any point you can send them back with a 0 or like yay or whatever. And it can always be ungraded too. Like that, this doesn't have to be about grades. It's just a process. So sometimes taking this to make it ungraded at the top of your assignment, you can choose to make it with points, or you can, the ungraded is an option. And I like that as a teacher because then it sort of removes that. But maybe when it comes down to now I have to turn in grades at this, at all levels, at that point you might say, okay, now I've put a point value on that, whether it's by rubric or by, 100 points. You can change that assignment grade at any point. Okay. So let's go in. So when you open up a doc that you've sent out via Google Docs, Google Classroom, whether the kids attach it themselves or whether you sent out a template, it always opens in this grading pane. And what's nice about this grading pane is that you can flip through student by student without having to go back out to those thumbnails and open each one individually. You can also, by this arrow here, you can choose to do it by status. So you can sort it by status. And these are the ones that have turned in or not turned in this case, or been assigned. So it makes it a little bit, easier for you to, if you did do turn in, not turn in. It's just available for you to do it that way. But we're going to scroll through to this embarrassing moment essay. And it gives a second and it should load those comments. Sometimes they don't appear right away, but you can see, just like the screenshot that I put into the slideshow, that I've commented all over the place on this essay. In fact, that was just to demonstrate for the last class, the last session. But if you were to receive this as a student or even as an adult, you would immediately just go, I'm out, or I would. This is just way too much in one essay, one document. I wouldn't even know where to begin. It would be intimidating and I would probably shut down. So this is just where we're modeling how to technically add comments. This is not particularly how we would do it within teaching. And that goes back to Janie's point where you might just be focusing on your hook statement. That's it. So they're not going to even look at the rest of the essay at that moment. That was just a little bit of a segue between what I'm showing to you technically versus what I would actually do in a classroom. So over here, you can see all of the comments that I have put into this document. And the way I know that what is this referring to? Well, I can click on this highlighted area, and that means I highlighted those 4 words in order to put in a comment. If I'm viewing it as a viewer, I want to be able to know, well, wait, which comment is that referring to? I just click into that highlighted area and that comment sort of pops out a little bit for you. You can also click on the comment itself, and then it also does the same thing. So it's kind of either way. You can click on the comment and it'll get you to that part of the doc, or you can click on that part of the doc and it'll pop open the comment. So how do I make a comment? If I were to try to correct this area, I'm going to highlight that thing I'm referring to, and you'll see this little add a comment button pops open. So if I didn't have anything highlighted, it's gone. If I highlight, it pops open, and then I click in there and I can write I've checked it, it's there. If I realize like, oh wait, that was not what I meant, or whatever it is that I inadvertently put a comment, these 3 dots allow you more options for the person that wrote the comment. So in this case, I wrote it. I can go up to these more options and I can delete the comment. I can edit my own comment. Or what's kind of nice is that you can have this link to this comment available. So you could grab that link, post it somewhere else, maybe in an email, or you might post it in a personal chatting that you're having with a student. Maybe if you're using Seesaw or some other program that's outside of Google Classroom, and it'll immediately bring them into the document. So it's just a little bit more of an efficiency tip there. We're going to talk about this in a second, but there is a comment bank within Google Docs and Slides, and they persist among all of the apps. So if I have a comment bank that I've created today while I'm editing this kid's document, I would be able to use that exact same comment bank for another student or for an entirely different assignment or even in a different Google Classroom. So, you know, you want to use that judiciously. You want to have enough comments that work for all your circumstances, but we'll get to that comment bank in a second, but just know that that's an availability so you're not repeating yourself over and over and over again. Okay. So what happens when students go in? And we will switch back and forth if we have time, but let's just pretend I'm a student now. I come in here, I'm totally overwhelmed. So and actually some of the practice of students is just to go, oh, okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. Yeah, whatever. And by clicking the box, you'll notice that the comment disappears as well as the yellow highlight. So they feel really good about what they've done. They're like, I'm done. And now you as a teacher comes back in and you're like, I could have sworn I graded this paper already. I know I did. I kind of remember it. So have no fear. Comment history is retained. You will always be able to find those comments, but I want to show you they're a little bit hidden. When you're opening in the Google Classroom in the grading pane, I guess this is what we call this, or the grading area, you'll notice that there's no menus. Do you see how I don't see my file menu, view menu, edit, any of that stuff? If you go over to the very right-hand corner, you'll see that those menus have been hidden. And they do that simply to give you more real estate so that you see more of the document on the screen. But if you click on this little down arrow, it opens back up the menu. So this is just looking like a normal Google Doc. But up here, you'll see that little chat icon or the comment icon. And if you click that, it'll show you the entire history. All of the comments you made, when they were made, in gray means that they were clicked, they were closed.
Hey, Courtney, quick question.
Yeah.
Are all comments in English only? There's no kind of a translation feature, right? You would have to type comments in the other language?
Yeah, I think you would have to, but I think you could probably do that in your comment bank. So
Yeah,
you
that's a
could
good idea.
probably have your translated comments already there. You could also teach kids how to use Google Translate, but I'm not sure whether they actually translate the comments. So Google Translate will sometimes translate the file menu names, but not always the content of what's within a page. So we'd have to test that out. But my hack around that would be I'd create my comment bank with both languages and just be able to refer to them. And that'd be easiest. But as you can see, all of those comments that were closed, I, as a teacher, can just click on reopen.
Courtney, can you show one more time how to find the comment bank?
Yeah, let's do that. The comment bank or the hidden comment, like the history.
Well, oh, you haven't shown the comment bank yet.
Yeah, we're going to go into comment bank, but. Okay. So that I revived that comment here, and now it's reopened, and it means the students would have to address it. Probably, I would say, sorry, please review that. But you can see that that was reopened, so it's kind of the same thing. So you might just educate your kids that, hey, I went back in and I reopened a bunch of the comments, please address them. However you want to do that. So let's go straight now into the comment bank because I really think that's important. And if everybody's comfortable with this process, and again, where to find that comment history is up here. And just remember that that's going to be hidden initially, that they just put that menu item away. Okay. So if you look here within the document, this upper icon is checked, and that's just because you could do grading right here. I've set this assignment to be ungraded, but if I had it set to 100 points or 5 points or whatever, I could have my grades put right here and click return. But right now we're going to focus on comment bank, which is this icon. When I open that up, you'll see that I've added a bunch of comments to my comment bank. And I haven't figured out what the end point to that, like how many comments can you have in there. But at some point, you probably wouldn't want that many because then you're gonna forget about it. But here is where I would create my comment bank. Let's just say something like, I spelled that right. Okay. So I've created a new comment. If I hover over the comment, there's this copy to clipboard. Well, that might be useful if I went scroll down and I'm like, okay, copy to clipboard, open a comment over here and paste. But there's a way, way, way easier way to do it. I want to make a comment on this image. By the way, just that's one I wanted to show you also, is that you're not limited to commenting only on text, whether it's in a slide, a Google drawing, a spreadsheet. You can also comment on images or objects that were put on top of a slideshow. So I highlighted this, and again, my little hover or my little comment button shows up. It's also always up on the toolbar. So just realize that if you don't see this pop open, which only happens in Docs and you're in a Google Slide or a Google Draw, you'll always see the comment button up at the top. So I'll go ahead and open that just for the sake of showing you. And now it's highlighted, meaning I'm going to comment on it. But if I click on the hashtag symbol, what happens, let me scroll down a little bit, is it's going to pull up the last 5 comments that I have used from my comment bank. So these are just like the recents. And if you were focusing on one specific skill set, like we were talking about topic sentence or transitions or whatever, that would probably be useful because you probably are using those same types of comments for that type of skill. However, let's say I want to use the thesaurus thing. So I'm like, I don't remember what the comment is, but I know I have something about a thesaurus in there. The minute I started typing the T or the TH, it found any comment in my comment bank that uses those letters. So I just had to do hash TH, and then I'm like, oh, that's it. I want to use check the thesaurus. And then I click comment. So it's a much more efficient to use this comment bank and to just trigger that hashtag. And that's really all you have to remember. If it's not in here, you just have to type whatever the, I don't know, I'm just going to use a C, correct spelling, comment. So you're much more efficient, and it makes it much easier for you as a teacher not to spend so much time having to type out comments, but to move on with the work. I also wanted to point out that within these comments, you could set up a bunch of comment banks that include links to maybe a website that's going to refer or review that concept that you're trying to get them to learn about. It could be a YouTube video. You could also have yourself teaching a mini lesson, whether you're using a screencast or you can use an audio file. And then you can have that stored in your Google Drive, and you can attach the link from that Google Drive to that comment bank so that you're constantly saying, like, remember, we reviewed that, and they can go and watch you present that lesson again.
The comment bank, I'm pretty sure this is true, but just want to check. The comment bank doesn't go away, right? It just stays year after year. Your comments don't disappear, and you'll see that same comment bank within all your classes?
I think so, just based on the fact that in the spring is when I've established some of those comments. You know, I probably had a few of those in there from whenever they started it, and they're here.
Yeah.
So I think as long they're probably attached to your account. You know, and I am assuming, and Jamie, you could check this, that you and I are co-teachers. And I would assume that your comment banks are your comment banks. Like, we're not sharing those comments. I believe it's an individual teachers.
I think I noticed yesterday that I just had like 5 in mine, like cool and stuff like that when I was testing it out.
Which reminds me, another fun thing to do is that you can add emoticons or emojis, sorry, that you could use those as comments. I don't know how you would trigger it with the hash, so you might have to put some words in there like, wow. So you could do the hash W, and then it could have like a cute emoticon, clown, or whatever.
Yeah, you
whatever.
could just right click in the comment area and select emoji, and then add some in there.
Okay, cool. All right, so that is the comment bank. And again, that persists between any of the Google Docs or, Google Apps that have the commenting feature in general. But they only are activated within Google Classroom. So I can't have a comment bank between Janie and I if we're working outside of Google Classroom and having a file that's shared only in the classroom.
In a bit, can you show how to add a private comment and a comment to the class on the assignment,
Yeah.
and then show the student view of that?
Yep. Okay. So are we all comfortable with me moving on to get outside of the assignment? So this is commenting within an assignment, which in a sense is private comments, but they're about a particular part of the assignment. All right, so let's go out of here. Come back. Okay. So now I want to make a comment overall on that student's work. It's not within the document. Maybe it's a short answer and I don't really need to go in and spend the time making a comment per line. So if I come over to my student work page and I click on, let's say I want to say something to Janie. So I click on her name over on the side, the left side, and this comment area, this private comment shows up below Janie's name down here. I already sent her one. It was where you, not a great one, but just for the sake of example, I would say cool. And just to note, it's kind of tripped me up at first. This little paper airplane is what you need to do to enter the comment. You can't use enter on your keyboard. That gives you a new paragraph. So you have to click that. And now I've sent that comment off. So let's flip over to a student. That was Janie, but I know I've done it for another one. So
before you do that, can you add I think under instructions, right? The class comment. Like
okay, let's do both. Okay, that makes sense.
Then you'll
okay,
show the
so
student.
that's a good idea, Janie. Thank you. So here I've added some comments already to test student. Same here. So we can be able to look at those on that. So now that is, again, individual students for the overall assignment. Now, if I go back into the instructions pane, here is where I can send an assignment to the whole class. So the class would receive this comment, not the individuals. Well, the individuals obviously as well. So, okay. All right, so let's flip over and see what that looks like from a student perspective. Which kid is this? Test student. Okay. So I'm going to go back into classwork. I'm going to refresh this just in case those comments did not appear right away, but they're pretty instantaneous, by the way. So you could actually have an ongoing dialogue. If the kids are in there at the same time and you're doing that private commenting, it's pretty quick. They do appear right away. So we were in the narrative writing. And if I click in and I view the assignment, just like I was seeing in the instructions pane on the teacher side, when they open up the assignment, this is where they're going to see the overall class, the overall class comments. So this is the class comments on the left. And you'll even see it says 3 class comments. So, you know, let me make mine a little bigger. So this is class comments, but over here, private comments. So these are the two differences, and you can see the private comments come under right where you're submitting or unsubmitting your work. So where you're turning in.
I'm not seeing the private comments.
Oh, really? You don't, am I covered?
Was it like a pop-up that might be like if you shared window instead of share screen or something? Sometimes that happens.
Oh, are you guys seeing me at all in the?
I can see the class comments and they're on the instructions tab.
But you didn't see my window pop up. Okay, let me just try.
Yeah, share entire screen.
Yeah, I think I probably was sharing just a window. Let me, here, give me a second. Sorry about that. Thank you, Janie.
Sure.
Yeah, you were seeing the instructions of, let me see, which one is it? This guy. Okay. Oh, okay, let's try that again.
Now I can see it.
Okay, so this was the students. Let me go out so you can see how I actually clicked into it just as a student would. I'm in the classwork. They're going to view the assignment. They can see right here as well. If they're looking at their work from the classwork page, they can click here and a pop-up shows up. So they might be able to say, I can help you out. And this is really good to try to encourage kids to be a peer, a community of learners, where you could say, I want you guys to help each other out. If you see comments, you know, I want you to respond if you can. And it also might be worth, and you guys have probably seen this enough in Google Meets and Google Zooms that you're with, if you have them refer to the person's name with the @ symbol, it'll auto-complete with, let me just show that again in case you weren't seeing it. So as soon as I started typing, it looked through the class and it found anybody that has the beginning with the TE, and they can click on it. And what that is it's a way for students to know that I am actually referring specifically to test students' question, because it's not a nested communication chain, it's all one big chain. So there's not like an indent to show that I'm referring to something, but this is a nice way for kids to be able to respond to each other. Okay. So then they get that. So that's one place. So that was the students just seeing right away when they open it up. But let's say they go in to view the assignment. And then when they view the assignment, they're going to see that string of comments below the instructions. So pretty much the same place that the teacher saw it, but the students will see it either on the outside or within. And then here is where we have the private comments. So you can tell the difference between class and private. So this is the exchange the student and I are making about the overall assignment. This is the class.
Can you just show also, like, click into the assignment and show what the comments look like within there?
That's where I am.
Like, actually, click on the essay.
Oh, here. Okay, I see what you
Yeah.
mean. So that we're talking. Okay, yeah,
So you could
perfect.
see all those
So
comments
this is
that you
class
made.
comments about the assignment, private comments just in general back to the whole assignment. Or now I'm going in as a student and oh shoot, happy moment was not where.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah, it was a different student.
Let's switch over again, but do you have teacher open?
Yeah, I have teacher open. I can add one.
See if there's a, here's some. Yeah, just do it. So let's have Janie, she's gonna be teacher right now. And then so this is useful for you to see that if your student is in the document at the same time as you, they would actually be seeing exactly what you guys are seeing on the screen. Somebody's highlighting it. Oh, and now I go, Okay, that is the trick that students do. So Janie, will you revive that?
Yes. So the comment bank.
Yeah. Do you see how she brought that comment back to life? And I can see that. So I just wanted to show you that in the moment that kids tend to click, and that's a teachable thing that you might want to actually show them, and you could show it to them on your screen because both people have the capability of closing and reopening comments. And then Janie, do you want to talk about the suggesting and editing?
Yeah, so I added a suggestion. So as the teacher, do you want to show or should I?
I can pretend that I'm the teacher right now, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
All right. So when Google Docs opens, sorry, Janie, and you're grading it as a teacher, you're in that grading pane. By default, it is in suggesting mode. And you can see what that looks like because Janie was just in there, and it highlights what her suggestion is, which is to add the word friend and cross out the word or delete the word boyfriend. So it's a nice way of visually showing the writing process or how you would actually edit your own work. Like, no, I'm going to delete that. I'm going to add that. However, the caveat, and Janie, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so when you add suggestions like that, like all I did was, delete boyfriend, and then I typed friend, and it added that note, replace boyfriend. So I didn't have to take so much time typing the comments. But what students might do if you correct things for them that way is just go down the list and go check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark, and then replace and correct everything without actually reading what it is that you suggested. So you might not want to use it too much, because it might be better for teaching if you actually type a comment and have them look over their work and, fix things that way. So yeah, it just depends. There's, different ways that different tools you can use.
Okay. So I'm going to switch back over. Okay, so I think we've addressed the bulk of what we wanted to show. What is it? Hold on, sorry, folks.
So we have a question. Do I copy a Google Doc into Google Classroom to make an assignment for all students? And I think if you're talking about adding a template, you don't have to add a Google Doc for them. They can click create. And then, add it, create doc and add their own. But if you do want to make some kind of template for them, do you want to show that, Courtney?
Yeah, are you guys seeing, am I in teacher mode
You're
right
in
now?
teacher, yeah.
Okay, right
You
here.
can create
Okay.
a template within Classroom, or you could make one in your Google Drive and then add it.
So to that question, they said create an assignment, and it could be essay or whatever. You have to give a title, which is kind of obvious, before you can assign it. But I could add a template that I've already created or a sheet of instructions from my Google Drive. I could create it right here as well. And that would be that was sort of what I was talking about for the younger kids. If you just wanted to have a spot for them to immediately click on and start working on, it could just be a blank doc. Like your instructions could be up here and you could just create with a doc right there. It's just blank. And the only thing it will do, that's that hidden title again, is it opens it up for you to be able to start saying, okay, please put your work here.
Yeah, I usually use templates more for like slides, because then on each slide I can put directions. Like on the first one, I'll say, add your name. And then the next one might be introduction. I'll put the title for them for each one so that they know what to do. And then, then once you're done creating it, Courtney is showing the little menu there. You want to make a copy for each student. That way it'll title it with whatever the title of the assignment is, as well as their name. And they can just click on the assignment and start working once they log in.
And students can edit file, be aware of that. That means that all students are editing the same file. So that's a collaborative slideshow or collaborative doc, whereas this is independent work. Students can view file it's really more just a reference. Here, you can look at this and then try to do that. So sometimes people do that to provide a model. This is what your essay should look like, or should have some, here's an example of an essay. So then you can attach multiple resources. So I could add more things to here, a YouTube video, etc. I know this is not exactly what we are talking about today, but since that came up in the chat.
Also, someone asked about this, will it save to their drive? Anything that students create in Google Drive in Google Classroom will be in a folder that gets automatically created for them called Classroom inside their Google Drive. And teachers also have a Classroom folder with all of the students' work as well. So you can find it in Classroom and in Google Drive.
Just don't delete that folder out of your Google Drive. Sometimes teachers are like, I didn't put that there, and they delete it, and it can create mayhem. It doesn't delete the work, it just makes it very difficult to try to restore. So I want to show you quickly Rubric. Do we have time, Janie, or are we?
I think we're till 2:20. We have about 10 minutes.
Okay. So Rubric is another really important feature, or a great feature that Google Classroom came out with a couple months ago. So What you have to do though is you have to create the rubric, and you have to create it from within Google Classroom. So you can't import, even though it says like bring in or reuse rubric. It means a rubric that was created within Google Classroom. So
Sorry,
be
it was
aware of that.
2:15, but we can stick around, you know, we have 3 minutes, but we can stick around more.
Okay, so I'll show this really quickly so that you guys have an idea that that is available, because it's a really neat feature. This is going to be probably pretty obvious. It's an essay, so I'm going to do word choice. And then I have my points, and then I would say what that is, below basic or whatever, you know, I want to call it. And then, you know, as explicit as possible, depending on your grade level and your age level. What does that mean? What is word choice? No words. I'm being facetious here, but now I want to create a level 2. I continue on with that, providing my description, Then I build another criteria. Maybe it's vocabulary or grammar or whatever. It's not the British way of saying it. 3, 2, 1. I think you guys can follow that logic there. I can even call it 3, and then whatever it is I want, and then I save it. And you would obviously build this out to be better than what that is there. But then when I assign it, students will get the rubric with that essay, and they'll be able to click in there and be able to look at what the criteria is that is needed for them to get whatever score they're attempting to achieve. Teachers can then grade using that rubric by just clicking on the, I don't know why it didn't, oh, here it is. So if I view the assignment, nobody's submitted anything. But if I go into the instructions and I see the rubric, I can open it up and I'll be able to read it. And that's a very similar view to what the students would see as well. They would see the criteria and the point value. As I'm grading it, same place that I was grading on the essay when we had the comment bank, you could switch back and forth between grading and essay. I would be able to click on that score. I think I actually have one.
Is there a difference between posting an assignment and assigning one?
No.
I don't think so, but you can post to specific students, like if you want to differentiate, and then, you know, not everyone will see those.
So assignments would provide point value, and you can do short answer and multiple choice questions here as well. And short answer, you can have it so students can respond to each other, which could be a feedback loop as well, peer feedback. Material is something you can post that does not get assessed. So I don't know if that is quite what they were referring to there.
And by the way, this recording will be on the Santa Cruz County Office of Ed YouTube channel, and it's also on their distance learning site as well, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, that's correct.
We got a couple more questions. Courtney, I think you
Sure.
had one where you already graded
Yeah, I'm
the
looking for
assignment.
it.
Can you show the student view, what it looks like for them if there's a rubric?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find where, okay, here it is. Okay,
okay.
here's the instructions, the student work. Now it's gonna require that I switch over again. I don't know if I'll lose you.
If it's in a new window, Courtney, you're gonna have to stop sharing and
Yeah,
reshare that window. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Hold on a second. Okay.
And there was another question. Will you show how to find their classroom drive, the small folder on the Google Classroom splash page? Because there's like a couple of places to find that, right?
Okay, you guys seeing my sample class here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just shared the whole window. Okay, so I think it was the animal report. And see how there's the rubric here? I can click in just like I was showing you that the teacher has created it. They can see it, so they have reference to that before they even start. Now I'm going to go into the assignment itself. And again, I can see the rubric right here. and the teacher has already scored me on this rubric, and they gave me a 2 out of 3, I can expand that criteria so that I would know exactly what there would be what is it, and the detail of it would be shown here. Again, we did these as a really quick exercise. So when you had a much more fleshed out rubric, it would be a lot more detailed. As a teacher, it would be somewhat similar where I could have the kids' essay open, and then I would just be able to click on the number 2 or the number 3, and it would automatically tick up my score so that it's essentially auto grading or doing the grading for you. If you left your assignment at a point value of 100, it'll scale it. So if they got 10 out of 10 on their rubric, they would get 100 out of 100 on their final score. And then,
Really quick, since you have that open, you guys
Mhm.
might have noticed we have like a little M that's purple on the private comments. There's a cool extension that you could add for teachers and students. Our district is pushing it out to everyone, but basically you click on it. As soon as you click on it, you're recording your voice, and then you can add an audio comment. So that's kind of a cool way. You know, maybe you have students that aren't at that level where they can read so much in classroom, and then they'll just see that little play button, and you know, students can also see that icon and record to each other. So it's called the Moat Google Chrome extension.
I think we have.
And at the end of our slides, I'll put that in the chat one more time. We added just a lot of like app smashing ideas. If you want to combine Google Classroom with some other apps like Flipgrid, there's some ideas and tutorials in there.
It's using Flipgrid.
One thing
You can
that
also-
we added, when we were in the sample class, we added something that Joe Marquez talked about at one of his sessions, a 24/7, what was it, office hours. And basically we linked to a Flipgrid where students can, you know, record their questions to the teacher at any time. Yeah, if you go to classwork and to the top, and so you can add a moderated Flipgrid. The one I'm talking about is the office, yeah. But basically students could record a video, and if it's moderated, it's private to you, and then the teacher could send feedback and the student could see it when they log into Flipgrid, or it'll also send them an email with the link to the feedback. So, you know, that's something you could do for students or for parents as well. You could have one that you share with parents for their questions, and you can post announcements. Anyway, and then Courtney also added a back channel. So there she added like a material where students don't need to create anything, but maybe for each week they could just be commenting about that week's assignments and, you know, replying to each other. So that's just another idea for feedback.
And another tool, and we've put it, all of this is in the presentation, is also Screencastify, which a lot of people have already heard about. That if you wanted to have a document open, instead of spending all that effort with the text comments, you know, the highlighting text comments or audio feedback, you could have the whole document open, screencast yourself reviewing it. You as the teacher could be going through and highlighting and saying, I really liked this part of it. And this expression was really great. And then boom, it creates a link, and you can post that link into the student's private comment, and they can go and review their work. Okay.
I actually missed how to do that Flipgrid, the private Flipgrid, the 24-hour.
It's in our slides presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and there's a video at the very end by Joe Marquez that talks about it too.
Okay, thank you. And we get the slideshow. Oh, I see it. Is that in the?
It's in the chat, and it's also attached to the agenda, right, Jason? Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to the detailed schedule on the website, you can see it in their session. You'll see it on the very bottom of their little table. They should have they probably put the link in there as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Great job,
much for
Janie.
coming.
Thank you, Janie and Courtney. Wonderful job
Thank
as
you.
always.
All right.
All right,
Good
see you
luck,
guys at the
everybody.
tutorials at your grade level teams to discuss what you learned today.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Okay.